你们好，我们接着学中文里的时间表达 and we'll continue to learn how to express time in Chinese. This is part 3. So in this video, we're going to learn how to express completion of event or an action and how to ask about the time when the happened event or action took place, and then how to express earliness or lateness of an action or event from the point of view of the speaker. So let's review briefly what we have learned so far. We learned the order of time phrases when there are multiple time points in one phrase. So we start from the broader point of time to the narrower, right? 1998年8月23号. And how do you ask for the time? 现在几点？今天几月几号？星期几？ Right? And then we learned the location of time expressions. And time expressions, when they express the point in time, they have to be before the verb. And the location of the time expressions do not change in the questions and in statements. They are in the same location. We have also learned how to express habitual action or event. For example, 我星期六上午打球，下午跟朋友聊天。And we also learned how to express future actions. We can use 我明天要做功课 or 我明天会做功课 or just 我明天做功课. So all three kinds of expressions express the future action. But when you negate, you're not going to do something tomorrow, you don't use 要. So you don't say 我不要, right? So you just say 我明天不做功课，我明天不会做功课. And then imminent action, we use 快什么什么了 or 要什么什么了 or 快要什么什么了. For example, 寒假快要到了. The winter break is around the corner. 快要到了. In this video, you're going to learn 4 main things. The first one is how to express the completion of an event or an action. And the second one is what word you use to express that the action was completed, but it has the impact on you or on the agent. And then the third one is how to ask about when a happened event took place. And lastly, you're going to learn how to express lateness or earliness of the occurrence of an event or an action from the point of view of the speaker. First of all, I want you to know that there's no past tense in Chinese, but there are 3 ways to express events that happened in the past. The first is that you want to emphasize on the completion of an action. The second one is you want to emphasize that the happened event has impact on the agent. The third way is that you want to emphasize that the time when the happened event or action took place. So let's look at the first one. You want to say just simply is completed. In this case, you use 了. For example, 我昨天晚上吃了2个比萨饼 pizza 比萨饼。我昨天跟王鹏打球了. So we use 了 to indicate this action has been completed. Okay, another set of examples. 我吃饭了。我昨天吃了3顿饭。3顿 is the measure word for meal. 可是今天我只吃了1顿饭. Now we know that 了 indicates completion, and I want you to take a look at the location of 了. There are 2 different locations, right? One is right after the verb and before the object, and the other one is in the end of the sentence. So in the end of the sentence, before the object, after the verb, and after the verb, before the object. So there are 2 locations. Pause here and just find the rule where we should put 了. Did you draw any conclusion about the location of 了? Here it is. So one way is that you put le before the object after the verb. That is when there's the quantity of things affected. For example, 我昨天晚上喝了6杯水 6 cups of water. I drank 6 cups of water last night. So this le must be before the quantity of the object. And the second one, subject, then verb, object, le. So you put le in the end when you don't have a quantity of the object. So 喝水, just drink water, right? You didn't specify how much water you drank. So 我昨天晚上喝水了. Okay, so now I want you to look at this sentence. 我们明天吃了饭就去看电影. What does that mean? We have 明天 tomorrow, right? 明天 is tomorrow. So after eat meal tomorrow, we go to see a movie. So in this case, this le indicates completion, but the action is not in the past, it's in the future. So here I would like you to know that le only indicates completion. It's not a past tense marker. It is a completion marker, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that the action or event was completed in the past. Just this example tells that, right? Okay, now another thing I want you to pay attention to is the use of le. So if an event or action didn't happen, do you use le? Well, you remember, le indicates completion. So if an event or action didn't happen, do you think you need to use le? So how do you say, I didn't play ball yesterday? Those are two sentences. Which one is correct? 我昨天没有打球. 我昨天没有打球了. So when it didn't happen, you don't use le. So it can't be used when something did not happen. So this is correct and this is wrong because there's le and may. They're contradictory. Okay, here's the first activity for you. 1, tell me what you did last night and what you didn't do last night. You can say 2 sentences. Write down 2 sentences. Number 2, if you texted your friend yesterday, how many text messages did you send? So I want you to write a sentence, specify how many text messages you send, and pay attention to where you put le. So send message, 发短信, 发短信. You can pause and do the exercise. Okay, now if an event has impact on you and you want to emphasize that there's impact or that you have that experience, you do not use le in this case, you use 过. 过. So because you're not emphasizing the completion. You're emphasizing that the fact that you have that experience. So in this case, you use 过, you do not use le. For example, 我去过中国. 我去过中国. That means you have the experience of going to China and coming back. That means implicitly we know that, you have the experience being in China. You know what China looks like. 我吃过小笼包. 小笼包 is one kind of steamed dumplings and you can find it in China. So 我吃过小笼包, that means I have that experience of eating 小笼包. It's not about completion. It's about experience or impact. 我见过大熊猫. 大熊猫, the giant panda. So I have seen that. That means I have the experience of seeing that. 我坐过飞机. I took a flight before. So that means I have the experience of taking an airplane, a flight. Okay, now let's compare 过 and le briefly. So 过 is usually not used with any time expression because you're not talking about completion, when you completed it, and it's about experience. So you don't use a specific point of time in the use of 过 when you use 过. And verb 过, object. So 吃过小笼包. So usually you put 过 right before the bare verb and then the object. And 过 can be used with negation. For example, 我没去过中国. I have never been in China. 我没去过中国. However, 了 so a time expression is often used with 了. For example, 我昨天吃了小笼包. And number 2, 了 can be in 2 different locations. You know, before the quantity of object, you put 了 before it, or in the end of the sentence if there's no quantity of the object. 了 cannot be used with negation since 了 is about completion. If you didn't complete it, you don't use 了. Okay, now look at this again, and then I want you to do some exercises. So you can pause here and fill in the blanks with 过 or 了 based on what you just learned in the previous slide. So now I want you to challenge yourself. So what is the difference in meaning between the 2 sentences? 他去过中国. 他去中国了. And I gave you some hints. So first, what is the emphasis of each sentence? Which one emphasizes on completion? Which one emphasized on the experience? And then where is he, 他 at this time? Okay, you can pause and do this exercise. Now, let's look at the third way of expressing events in the past. When did a happened event take place? So in this sentence, in this question, you can figure out that happened event. That means you have known that this event has happened. And then you want to get further information about, for example, when this happened event take place. So, for example, 王鹏去纽约了. We know that Wang Peng going to New York has happened. Now you want to know when this event happened. So, 他是什么时候去的? So in this case, you have to use this 是什么什么的 construction. 他是前天去的. So he went there the day before yesterday. So now there are 2 things that I want you to remember. One is you have to know that this event has already happened. And then you want to know when it happened. So that is a specific detail, right? So in this case, you use 是什么什么的. You don't use 了 because 了 indicates completion, and 是什么什么的 is to find out more information about this happened event. Okay, another example. 我认识李友, so I know 李友. 你们是什么时候认识的? 我们是2018年认识的. So I know Leo. So this knowing Leo, this action, this event has already happened, and I want to know when this event happened. So you use 是什么什么的. So now let's look at the structure of 是什么什么的 construction. So it should be subject, and 是 is optional, but I usually use 是. It sounds better to me. 是, and then a point in time, and then verb, and the. That means this point in time is the time when this action, this verb action happened. So that means between 是 and the, there must be at least 2 elements, 2 components. The first component would be the time, and then the second one would be the main verb. Okay. 他们是昨天来的. That means we saw them, or we know that they are here. So I want to tell you that it is yesterday that they came. So 他们是昨天来的. 我的狗是去年死的。死 means to die. It's sad, I know, but this is an example. 我的狗 my dog 是去年死的。OK， 我是2020年开始学中文的。开始 to start, 学 to learn, to study. So 我是2020年开始学中文。That means I have already started learning Chinese. Here I am. So I'm telling you the exact year when I started to learn Chinese. Let's look at another example. 你的衬衫真好看. Your shirt is really pretty. 谢谢. So your 衬衫, that means it's yours. You bought it or somebody made it for you, right? So now I want to know when you bought it, the shirt. So that's when I have to use 是什么什么的。你是什么时候买的？什么时候 when, what time? 我是去年买的。I bought it last year. Now, activity number 5. The above are two older people and they're having a conversation. The woman asked the man, when were you born? So how do you ask that question? Be born is 出生. 出生 is the verb. If you don't know how to write the character, you can use pinyin. So I want you to know that this man was born already, right? You're asking about the exact time or the year, right? When he was born. Pause and do this exercise, please. Okay, now the last main point we're going to learn in this video is an event happened earlier than expected or later than expected. Let's look at earlier, the earliness. 我昨天晚上8点就睡觉了. So for me, I normally go to bed at 10, but 昨天晚上8点 is early to me. In this case, I use 就 right before the verb to indicate the earliness in my perception about this event, this action. Okay, an event action happened later than expected. 我昨天晚上11点半才睡觉. So 11点半. I normally go to bed at 10, but 11:30, that's late for me who is speaking the sentence. So I use 才 before the verb 睡觉 to sleep. So did you notice that even though it happened last night, when I use 才, did I use 了? No. But when I use 就, I use 了, right? Because it's already completed. So now we know that when you use 才 to indicate the lateness, and with the time expression here, you don't use 了. 才 and 了 do not appear in one sentence when there's the specific time. So there's the specific time. Okay, future action that will happen earlier or later than usual, expected. So I want you to know that when we express the lateness or earliness, we don't just express what happened already. We can express the future action. For example, 我明天晚上8点就睡觉，因为我早上3点得起床去坐飞机。So 明天晚上 tomorrow night 8点 I will go to sleep. I will go to bed. 就 indicates earliness. 因为 because 我明天早上 tomorrow early morning at 3 a.m. I will have to 起床 get up and take the flight. 我明天晚上12点才睡，因为我要 binge on 电视剧。我明天晚上12点才睡觉 so I won't go to bed until midnight because I'm going to binge on the soap opera. Now let's look at where should 才 and 就 be in the sentence. Where should they be located? Okay, it should be after the time expression, the point in time, and then the 就 or 才, and then the verbal phrase. So it has to be between the time expression and the verbal phrase. 我今天早上11点才吃早饭。我今天早上6点就吃早饭了。So this morning I didn't eat my breakfast until 11 a.m. And this one, 就 I ate my breakfast as early as 8 a.m. No, 6 a.m. Now the last activity. Write down 2 or 3 sentences, 3 things that you did later or earlier than expected in the past week. Okay, this is the end of the time expression part 3 video. Thank you. 谢谢。